All right, so welcome everybody. I'm Mimi Lufkin, the CEO of the National Alliance for Partnerships and Equity. It's a pleasure to have all of you with us. I wanted to make sure everybody's aware of the fact that today's webinar is being recorded so that we can share it with the rest of the IMSTEM network who weren't able to be with us because they're probably on vacation at this week, beautiful week in August. It's my pleasure to get a chance to do a quick overview of the IMSTEM project, specifically our NSF Includes grant, and to share with you our goals and objectives a little bit. And then we're going to get right into how to engage you in the work as we move forward. So Kathleen, yes, I'll need for you to move the slide deck for me. Thank you. Mm-hmm. First of all, just to be clear, the IMSTEM is the Intermountain STEM network. It's a group, a collaboration between 6 states, Colorado, the PowerPoint went away. There we go. Colorado, Idaho, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming. And these 6 states are working towards broadening participation in STEM and doing it under a collective impact framework. So what we've been doing over the last few months is working on building a network across these 6 states, and certainly this webinar is part of trying to do outreach to those in the field who are doing this work to engage them in our discussions and to share across the network. So Kathleen, you can go to the next slide. Kathleen, can you move it to the next? Thank you. So IMSTEM's mission is to broaden participation and close achievement gaps, primarily in grades 7 through 12 and in undergraduate STEM education. So we're very interested in looking at scaling effective practices that close gaps at these critical junctures that currently limit participation of underrepresented students in STEM pathways. One of the things that the team that got together in terms of initially seeking funding from the National Science Foundation for this work looked at was particularly the transition points from middle school to high school in decision making around early algebra, taking algebra early in the math sequences, but also transitions from career and technical education programs that are offered in the middle school that are available in high schools on engineering and other technology-related pathways where we see frequently females and females of color dropping out of those career paths. And then also a very strong interest in looking at the transition point across the high school to community college or undergraduate education in STEM, and looking at strategies for increasing underrepresented student transition points across those pathways as well. So that's sort of the focus of the IMSTEM work and our common agenda that we're trying to collect and gather information that we can share across the 6 states, which we hope eventually to expand into a more national alliance proposal next spring. So the way we're doing this, you can go to the next slide, Kathleen. The way we're doing this is by engaging a network of individuals who are working on this effort across these 6 states, from all of the states. And so that's the state network section on this particular slide. And we've identified 6 work groups, which we've now done some collaboration across some work groups. So I think we're at 5 at this point. And our outreach and growth and communication and resource sharing group is working very closely together to bring these kinds of resources to you. So we've done a couple of these network meetings now. This is our 3rd, and we'll continue to do so as we move forward to try to have a continuous communication going on across the networks. And we'll share this out on our listserv. We also have a work group on metrics and data collection. We'll talk more about the work. So all of these work groups work, but this particular webinar is going to be focused primarily on looking at asset map building, which is the work group that's trying to identify all of the activities that are going on across the 6 states and make that information more transparent to everyone and available and accessible. We also have an effective practice scaling work group that's looking at creating a rubric for evaluating effective programs that should be scaled across the 6 states, and a pilot monitoring work group. And we'll be sharing one of the activities that are going on. And we're looking initially at what professional development NAEP is doing across the 6 states as a sampling for the pilot monitoring to start. The idea is these work groups are formed to really sort of move the agenda forward and to identify best practices, to communicate across the network, and ultimately hopefully expand the implementation of effective programs that work towards broadening participation in STEM. There is a steering committee, and many of the members of the steering committee you will meet on today's call. That steering committee has been driving the initial work in creating the work group's activities, and so part of our call to action today will be to ask those of you who are on this call who don't serve on the steering committee to consider volunteering to serve on a work group. And we also have pilot site activity going on in all 6 states that NAEP's involved in, so you'll be hearing a little bit about some of the work that we've been doing in a few of the states through one of our projects that's being implemented in New Mexico. Okay, Kathleen?
Okay, at this point, I'm going to ask Tammy Getz to step up to the mic. And I'm going to, if you want to share your webcam, Tammy, you're welcome to.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, great. And I'm in the lobby at Boeing right now in Salt Lake City, so it's pretty quiet, but I apologize if there's some loud noises. I'll pause if it seems to get too loud. So what we do, and that's a critical component of the program, of course, and the activities that the network has determined to be important align very closely to the committees that Mimi talked about. So, you know, obviously fostering new partnerships is key to building out a network. And so as a group, a collective impact, partnership, we're always looking for, groups and individuals that can help bring skills and insight and thoughts to the table that perhaps our existing members don't have. So we're always looking for engagement, which is, again, going back to what we said, a big part of this network call is a call to action to help solicit participation. And that the second box, the support and grow a robust network, is pretty much what I just said, so I don't need to repeat myself. I want to emphasize that developing an asset map is a fairly daunting process, but I think that given this whole using the collective kind of collaborative model that is outlined in this project, where every state is taking on part of their own work, I'm pretty excited about the idea that we can actually begin to start determining what we're doing, how it's working, and identifying promising and best practices, which goes down to our next little green box in the bottom left, which, through that identification, one of the most important things we can do with that is to share what's working and to identify ways to scale those best practices. And dissemination is a big part of that. So there's a commitment by this network to really dive into the whole dissemination and scaling of those ideas that come from our asset map inventorying. And then sharing those lessons that we've learned from our pilot projects. As Mimi said, there's a lot of exciting stuff going on in each of our states. And I think as this project evolves and grows, those projects will mature, and the data that will come from that will be very exciting and worthwhile to share. So it's really, I think if you look at everything that's going on in what we do here, the value proposition that comes from participation is not only strong now, but will continue to grow. And I think we just want to make sure we message that to everybody who's on this call, that we are very attentive to making participation in this of high value to all participants. And then, of course, at the heart of all of this is Mimi's teams work through their professional development program and making sure that we can deliver that and have as much impact as possible to all of our network partners. Okay, Kathleen, please. Next slide.
Yes.
Thank you. So we've identified 2 levels of engagement, and I think they're fairly straightforward. And the benefits and expectations, we've worked really hard, and I use the royal we. There are a lot of good input from other partners, and so to outline the benefits, and then of course everybody likes to know when they start to participate what's expected of me, because we want to make sure, I know all of us, when we get involved in these types of projects, we can actually bring something to the table and contribute and gain as well. And so the networker level is the first level of engagement that we've identified, and there are several benefits and expectations that go with that. The benefits, of course, you can get access to the communication platform that we've been using, Trellis, and then the newsletters that are beginning to emerge from the program, and the work that we're doing in the States with the network and all our pilot work. And then also, as of course, the virtual quarterly network meetings that we have that will showcase various aspects of professional development and other highlights and activities within the projects that we can learn from, and even perhaps modify and adapt to our own activities in our states. And then the expectations at the networker level is really to be engaged in discussions. When you be there, post your resources, take the time to help build out. Oh, sorry, here comes that noisy part that I was afraid of. So engage in discussions and post your own resources and let us know what's going on in your community so that our asset map can continue to grow and remain current. And then help us grow our networks so that we can share what's going on and increase the impact of it beyond where we are now. Does anyone want to add anything to that? Mimi, Lisa, anyone out there before we move to the next slide? Okay.
No, Tammy, I think you covered it totally. Maybe before you move to the next slide, one of the things I'd love for you to do is to tell everyone where you're from and the organization you represent. You started in on your presentation. I don't think said that, so I want to be sure people know who you are. Since you are an influencer and networker extraordinaire, just like the levels of engagement that we have going on here.
Oh, you're kind. Thanks. I apologize. I've been going through a systematic problem-solving workshop out at Boeing. This is our 2nd day, and it's intense. So my name is Tammy Getz, and I am the Executive Director of the STEM Action Center in Utah. And so we are a state-level STEM organization that operates out of the Governor's Office of Economic Development. So we've been involved with Mimi's group for several years now, thanks to our Utah colleague, Susan Thackeray, with the STEM Equity Pipeline Project. So the influencer level, as Mimi just mentioned, is the next step up. And if I can be an influencer extraordinaire, anybody can take on the challenge of being an influencer. So thanks, Mimi, for that shout out. But the benefits of being an influencer, of course, build off of the networking level of engagement, networker. But you actually will, as an influencer, of course, the assumption is that you're going to want to share, kind of have a voice and have a place on the regional agenda with respect to a lot of the work that's going on. It's access and diversity and equity. And then, having input into all aspects, including, the upfront design of programs that are going on. And then finally, I think, of course, having good people who are engaged and committed to this challenge and the outcomes that we're all driven to is really important at the leadership level. So hopefully at some point, if you want to become more engaged at the leadership level, that's the hope at the influencer level. The expectations, again, are fairly straightforward. It's really about engagement. But at the influencer level, the hope is that the commitment to actually influence what's going on and put a little more time into working with us to actually help drive next steps and growing initiatives within the network and serve on work groups is what we're hoping. And I can speak to the fact the work group, while I don't do a lot of the work, we've got other team members such as Lisa that really do quite a bit, and everyone else. It's actually a very rewarding experience. So I encourage anyone on this call to consider engaging with this project and with all of our colleagues and friends on it and team members at either one of these levels. Any comments before? I think I've got one more slide maybe. Okay, Kathleen, I think we'll move to the next slide, please. Mimi mentioned a couple slides ago about our work groups. There's a lot of information on the slide, so I won't read through it, but these are kind of 5 pillars of key efforts within the program, within our IM STEM network, really reflect what we think is going to make a difference in terms of our outcomes and the transformation that we hope that we can achieve over the next several years with this project. At the heart of anything that we do, being able to identify key metrics and ways to which to collect data and report it and share it is absolutely essential. So we do have a work group with individuals on that are committed to good data collection and assessment performance. It's a network. We want to communicate. That's really what we're about, is really being able to share what everyone is doing, because we know everybody's doing a great job and doing some exciting things in our pilot states and beyond. So we have a group, and this is the work group in which I help out with the communications resource sharing, helping with creating venues and formats and different strategies and methodologies to do a better job of communicating and sharing. And I will tell you that one common theme of our discussions within this group is to make sure that whatever we are sharing and the way in which we communicate is all sensitive to making sure that your time with us is well spent. And we really want to make sure that we keep the value of engagement always at the front of what we're trying to do, to make sure that when you take the time to join us, it's worth it. Asset map building, of course, we need to know where we are so we know where we want to go. And so having a clear idea of what we have, what we need, what's missing, and how to use our our collective impact model and our growing network to address some of the gaps and to build capacity and scale on some of these best practices. That asset map really serves as our foundation for that. And of course, any program worth its weight is going to look at how to scale effectively. And so there's a lot of our colleagues on our network that are already doing this and have some effective methodologies for scaling. We want to learn from everyone and modify and adapt where we can, not invent the wheel. And then of course, monitoring our pilot work is absolutely essential. Being able to have that formative assessment to continue to improve and to grow and know where our promising practices are and help make sure the resources continue to be secured to keep the programs growing is really important. And I think that's my last slide. Anybody have any questions, anything to add to that I might have missed, or you can say better than I did?
Thanks, Tammy. All right, I'll take it from here. I'm Kathleen Fitzpatrick. I'm the Senior Program Manager for NAEP and working with the Asset Mapping Group. And we really see the asset map as a way to visualize what's going on in our 6 states. We want to know who the existing providers are and have a way to filter out through different means what all's going on, so that people can look for like camps or who's providing teacher development, professional development, or so having some different filters is what we were looking for. Again, it really is something to help us identify the program coverage as well as gaps in our region and looking for those best practices. We talked about who the target audience would be for this map. Obviously, it's the network that we're developing, but we're also hoping that this will become a resource for other educators, for families who are looking for maybe summer camps for their kids, for policymakers as they're looking to invest in or make policy around STEM education, funders, like I mentioned earlier, looking for like providers. So some summer camp director might be looking for somebody else to get some best practices in one of the other states, as well as workforce and business and industry. We started looking at different tools, and turns out that the Idaho STEM Action Center has a really good tool that they've used. This is, they use a software called ArcGIS. So this is a global information systems tool that they've been using to map out their STEM grants. I am going to change my screen sharing and show you how this works. It's really exciting. And if somebody can give me a yes, you can see my interactive screen here. Yes? What? Let's see. Mimi, you can see my screen? I'm just making sure that you all are
Yes, I
seeing.
can see your screen.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
we
Thank you.
can see it. Fine.
So,
Sorry, I thought you could see my video. Thumbs up, thumbs up.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm seeing the presentation, but nobody's faces. So thank you. So what we have here is a map of Idaho, and our vision is that this will be the 6 Intermountain states. This one, you can zoom in and see all of the different spots on the map. And there's along the left-hand side here, they have all sorts of different filters that you can filter. And again, they've developed this from their granting, from a grant perspective. So they have device grants and camps and competition grants, professional development grants. So again, that's how they developed, that's what they were looking at. But we're looking at having, again, these different filters to filter in on what are the STEM providers that are doing increasing participation in these areas. So you can see Boise. If I click on one of these dots in Boise, it will show me the details of what's going on at that. This is the Family STEM Awareness event, and it gives us all sorts of details of what's going on in there. It's a library branch in Boise. They do bird activities, and gives more specific about their projects. So that's what we're envisioning for our project, is to have all of our STEM providers mapped out on our 6 Intermountain states. And I'm going to switch my screen back to the slides. And so you can see here, I just blew up one of the providers. It just shows you that they've got in here their name and their address and where they're located. In this case, it's the amount of the grant that they received and a description of their project. So we think this is a pretty cool software tool that we want to utilize. And the key is going to be inputting all the data that goes into this tool. So what we're really looking for from the network is for you all to help us identify programs in your region so that we can include it on the asset map. And again, if you want to be at the influencer level, that we'd love to have you come join us as part of the asset map working group. After we're done here, what I will be doing is sending you it's a Google form that will allow you to input the name of programs that you are aware of, along with their information, who the contact person is, what type of STEM do they focus on, is it teacher, is it student, what the age group, all sorts of different data that we're trying to collect. All right. Any questions before I hand the mic off over to Ben Williams, who's going to talk about one of our pilot sites? Oh, I see a question here. It says, is this mapping a perk of being part of this project, or do states have to pay additionally to access it? This will be a perk. So once the key is getting the data into the maps, and at some point in the project, I'm sure that there will need to be a handoff in order to maintain the data in the maps. But at least for this first part of the NSF Includes project, this will be a perk for the 6 Intermountain states. Any other questions?
Kathleen, this is Mimi. I would just like to add to everyone that one of the things that we're trying to do, of course, in this project is to focus on programs that have a specific emphasis on broadening participation in STEM. So this is not an asset map of all STEM activities in all 6 states. It's an asset map of programs that have a particular emphasis on particular underrepresented populations. So programs that support girls, programs that support students of color or work in low-income communities. Those programs who are at core to the program's activities are working with underserved groups is the critical component of this. This is not an asset map for all STEM activities in all 6 states. I think that would sink us pretty quickly.
Yes. So
hopefully
thank you for
that helps too.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that. And one more point of clarification, I think I misspoke that GIS is Geographic Information System, so I misspoke earlier. Other comments or questions? Okay, Ben, the mic is yours. Oops.
Great, well, thank you so much. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, but
okay,
our slides
fantastic.
go away. There we go.
Nope, slides are there. Oh,
okay.
Now we see your computer, Kathleen. There we go. Thank you so much. So it's really exciting to see things continuing to evolve with the asset mapping around the work that's happening in our IM STEM states. And I also want to just give a shout out to the students at UVU and oh my goodness. What was the class that designed the IM STEM logo that's been so fun to see in the PowerPoint today? Do you remember, Mimi?
So they were students at Utah Valley University. I don't know that they were in a particular class exactly, but so Susan Thackeray was the one who helped us do that with a group of students who were in a technology and design program there.
Yes, and I wanted to say thank you to Susan Thackeray again for facilitating that. It's been really exciting to see the new logo on the PowerPoints today. So thank you for your help with that. So I am very pleased to share with everyone in our network call today information about an opportunity that we've had this year to be able to integrate the work that's happening in this NSF Includes project with work that's happening in another NSF Advanced Technological Education ATE grant that was awarded to NAEP last year, where we can leverage both of these projects together to really give a value add. And that is the Educators Equity in STEM 2 project, which is the first time that we've taken our very successful micro-messaging to reach and teach every student professional development program for STEM educators that's been historically offered at the local setting, if you would, where we go in and work with a particular institution, a team from that institution, Instead, we're bringing together teams from all around the country to a central location, and we've had 2 host locations, one in Ohio, Stark State College, and the other, Dona Ana Community College in New Mexico, in one of our participating states in IMSTEM, who have provided supports and a host location to bring teams of educators in STEM CTE pathways together these past 2 summers for a summer institute, followed by engagement in professional learning communities, leading to a capstone project where they are able to implement effective strategies in their classrooms to broaden participation, persistence, engagement, achievement, completion for students in particular STEM courses, and then be able to share those results with one another. And so the focus on this grant is really developing a model to scale the Micromessaging Academy, to host that in those 2 different regions, and to really understand what are the key factors that lead to successful implementation. So if you can go to the next slide, Kathleen. The goal of this project is, there we go, to really focus on building educators' capacity to implement effective solutions in the classroom to help students to be successful and to be able to continue in their STEM educational and career pathway, with a particular focus on broadening participation for women and girls, students of color, and students from what is defined in Perkins legislation as special populations, which includes students from low socioeconomic backgrounds, students with disabilities, and English language learners in STEM pathways through career technical education. And the model that's used for this professional development, if we could go to the next slide. Oh, I'm sorry. So we were very excited. So this past cohort, which just engaged in the professional development last month, we were able to involve 4 colleges from IMSTEM states. So as I shared, Dona Ana Community College in Las Cruces, New Mexico, has not only been the host location this year, but they also had a team of educators participate. We also had a team from North Idaho College in Coeur d'Alene in Idaho, Santa Fe Community College in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and then Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah, which we were just talking about a minute ago as well. So it was terrific to have those 4 institutions participate of the, I want to say, 9 institutions that we've had participate this year. So what grounds the work of the micromessaging to reach and teach every student is this model called the NAEP Culture Wheel. And it's beginning with a recognition that there are cultural stereotypes that lead to bias that are communicated through micromessages, small, subtle messages that are sent and equally as important received, that accumulate over time in students' experience and ultimately affect that student's self-efficacy or their belief in their ability to be successful at fill in the blank, successful at a course, at a program, in a career, in a particular task within a course. And so what happens is when those cultural stereotypes are at play, and that leads to biases that are communicated through negative messages that might make a student feel devalued or a feeling of not being included, that accumulates over time in a negative way and can lead to low self-efficacy, which then means that a student is much less likely to persist. Whereas if an educator recognizes this dynamic, begins to explore how that bias may have played out in their own actions, and intentionally replaces what may be unintentional negative messages with very intentional positive, what we call micro affirmations, we're filling the bucket, if you will. We're leading to a greater sense of inclusion, a greater sense of value, building up students so that it increases student self-efficacy and they're much more likely to persist and to continue. And these micro messages really play out in 6 different realms in an educational environment, which should be right there. Perfect, thank you. And that is in what is said, so the verbal, paraverbal, how it's said, nonverbal, the whole experience, so much of communication that we have with students is nonverbal. In fact, it's over 80% of our communication. What's really important is a recognition of the contextual micro messages. So those small, subtle messages that are sent in the context of the classroom, in the lab, in the building. In one project, not in this particular implementation, but in a similar project in work that was done in Oregon, they did action research looking at their educational environment and the context that students were experiencing. And what they learned is that all of the equipment in the welding lab was size large. And so they realized that that was a major barrier to students being able to access that learning environment, especially when the size large equipment didn't fit them. So one of the key strategies that group used, for example, was to buy equipment of many sizes. That was one piece of the puzzle, but they also looked at the role models that students had in the context of the classroom. And so it's looking at these micro messages and how they play out in many different ways. Omission is another powerful micro message, and that is by what is not present, there are strong messages being sent. So are we intentional about making sure that students see themselves reflected in the examples that are put before them as people successful in a career? Are the stories that we're telling, the books that we're using, the experiences that are being brought into the classroom, are they resonating with students' lived experience? And then how we give praise and criticism. And so over a course of 4 days of intensive professional development, people have engaged in really unpacking and looking at this through multiple lenses. And then they go back and stay engaged through professional learning communities over the course of this academic year, doing action research in their classrooms, seeing how these different dynamics might play out, and then selecting specific strategies that they can implement in their classroom through what's called the capstone, and then sharing that with one another at the end of this year. There's also an opportunity for each of those teams to share with other educators at their institution what they've learned in order to expand understanding and really increase the likelihood of sustainability of those efforts. So this is a really powerful tool that has been very effective in institutions around the country, and we're really excited to be able to offer this to multiple institutions through these resources from NSF Advanced Technological Education, and to have had these 4 institutions participate this year. Does anyone have any questions about this project and how it fits into the larger network? Whoops, I didn't mean to turn off my webcam. I'm looking to see if there are any chat questions.
All right, well, thank you, Ben.
Okay. Thank you. And, you know, one of the things we will share with our larger community, the results of the work that's happening through this project as the project is evaluated. At the end of our 2nd year, we'll do a full evaluation of the project and be able to share those outcomes. But thank you to everyone who has participated this year, and we look forward to sharing things as they continue to evolve. So thank you so much for inviting me to share that with the group today.
All right, at this point, we're going to turn it over to Sanal Bhakta. Sanal, you want to introduce yourself and kind of take us to the finish line here today?
Sure. Can everyone hear me? Thumbs up?
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. My name is Sanal Bhakta. I work in Clark County School District's Career and Technical Education Department. And if you're not familiar where Clark County is at, we are located in southern Nevada. There's a small city called Las Vegas in our county. Some of you may or may not be familiar with it. So we are the 5th largest school district in the country. So and I really enjoy working in the district, and really am passionate about the efforts here with NAEP and the IM STEM project. So let's moving on. So in order for any project to be successful, you know, I think one of the keys that we realize as educators or people involved with education in the local communities is the ability of building relationships and networking with each other. We never want anyone to feel that they're on an island or by themselves. So I think one of the key goals of IM STEM is to really create that network, create that almost like a camaraderie or fellowship, that you're not in it alone. You're not trying to address these challenges reaching students of special population or girls or of color. There are other people doing the same work and having the same successes, as well as in some cases failures, but you know, we're all in it together. So I want to encourage each new member to really share some information about their program, their highlight, or anything like that they want to share at a future meeting. And to some degree, we're going to call you out on it. You know, we're going to want states representing themselves at future network meetings. And once again, this is an opportunity for you to share and really highlight the successes and programs, and really kind of give you that stage, that opportunity to really kind of build upon what you've done, and hopefully gain some information from what other people have done as well. So, and you know, any successful program, we also want to, well, in order to be successful, we also want to get feedback from all of you to ensure that we are moving in the right direction. We are providing value to everyone involved within the IM STEM network, whether you're an influencer or a networker, or just helping out or volunteering your time as much as you can. So definitely provide feedback and let us know either via email or you know, here at attending these meetings. If we could go to the next slide. Some of the next steps, we would love for everyone on the call. There we go. And once again, the moving arrow, sorry if that's really glitchy depending upon your internet speed, but we'd really like for everyone that's on the call to sign up for a work group, and bonus points if you sign up for two, if you have enough time to sign up for two, but really want you to be involved. And as you can see, there's a brief description of each of the work groups: metrics and data collection and reporting, communications resource sharing, asset map building, effective practice scaling, and pilot monitoring. And there's a brief description. I'm not going to read through the description, but definitely we want to encourage everyone to get involved. These work groups meet more frequently than our network meetings. Typically, they meet every month, and as needed, maybe even more frequently than that. But at the bottom left, Lisa's email is there. You can email Lisa and let her know which work group you would sign up for. And she's promised a 1-hour turnaround on all emails, or at least that's a goal, or we'll follow up as quickly as we can, but she will get you in touch with the right folks of each of the work groups. So I'm going to leave that up just for a few more seconds, but I think we'll probably send out a copy of these slides, but her email is down right there in the bottom left corner. So just email Lisa to sign up for one of the work groups.
And
next slide.
Thank you, Bobby, for signing up for the asset map building group.
Oh, awesome. We should get her a prize, like get her a trip to Hawaii or something like that. So the first 100 people that sign up get a free trip somewhere. Don't know where, or you'll get free first class tickets on Southwest. All right. So the other thing with all the work that we're doing is that we need feedback and input. So we really want everyone to complete that asset map survey. And Kathleen did a great job, and especially talking about the perk. I really think being involved in that, having that type of ArcGIS map for the work that we're doing is going to be a nice perk, especially those of you that work in grants or with grants, whether it's Perkins or state funding. I think having that type of data collection and visually represented is going to be key. So please complete the asset map survey, whether you're a networker or an influencer, and you know, help us. If you're a networker, you make sure to help us identify some of the programs in your area, and then obviously if you're an influencer, you know, we want you to serve on that asset mapping work group. And Kathleen, did you have something else you want to add?
I do, thank you.
Mhm.
One of the things I wanted to let you know is we have a Google survey where you're entering the programs one by one. If you have a whole bunch of programs that you want to send to us, I can just send you a data shell in an Excel spreadsheet if that's easier for you to input the data in. So just let me know how you'd like to give us that feedback for those asset maps.
Right. And And that's a great point you make. So we want this to be simple, straightforward, and somewhat easy for you to submit this information. So if for some reason you're even not able to do a spreadsheet like that, or if you have maybe a one-page flyer that's got all the data, just email that over to us. One of us from the committee or the work group will be happy to capture that information. So once again, we need that information. So next slide, please. And one thing that I always believe in is, and especially I talk about this a lot toward the end of the year, but sharing is caring. So we really want to get people across these 6 states involved. If you know others that want to get involved outside the 6 states, I mean, we'll take them as well. But we really want everyone here on the call to think about different organizations or individuals that really could add some value, either with information or maybe have some input or help broaden the reach. Because really, in order for us to accomplish that goal of really serving those students, the 7 through 12, those young women, the students of color, special population, it's got to be a team effort. So sharing is caring. So we ask that you refer a friend. It's a snapshot of the website that gives you some information about the states and everything, but just want to make that plea, because ultimately we'd love for this call to have well over 100 people on the call as we're sharing information and stuff. And we're looking at some different things with this project as far as recognition for the states, and some incentives to really help participate in this project. So, and once again, I think Lisa's email's on a slide couple slides ago, but feel free to email any of us here on the call. We're happy to help and support if you have any questions, or write in the chat. And I know there's a lot of chat, so I just want to select the chat. So, okay, cool. So if there's any other questions I'm missing on the chat, definitely let us know. But yeah, I think I want to close by asking that one final please, just refer a friend. So think about someone, whether they're education, corporate, community, nonprofit, anything like that, anyone that's involved or wants to be involved in this important work that we are doing.
So Sanal, thank you so much. And
Mhm.
just to clarify on this last slide, this is the NAEP website, so naepequity.org, and if you just search for I Am STEM, it'll take you to this page, and at the bottom of the page, it'll give you and the colleagues that you pass this along to a chance to sign up to be part of this network.
I always miss that final detail, that final detail. So once again, it shows that this is a team effort. It's a team effort that we're going to get it accomplished. So yes, thanks, Kathleen.
Yes. So Mimi, any final comments or questions?
No, I just want to thank the team for their involvement in this quarterly network webinar, and we'll be taking this recording and sharing it out with the entire network for those people who weren't able to join us. And again, share this with anyone in the 6 states or elsewhere. Get them to get involved on a work group, and refer them to the network page so that they can sign up. We're going to be generating some communications that will be going out to the entire network, so we want to try to grow that group. So please do that. And thanks to everyone.
And if
Right.
does anyone have any questions right now? I mean, we have a few minutes before our scheduled time's up. I just want to make sure any questions for Mimi or Kathleen or myself or Ben. We need the Jeopardy music playing. Da, 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 da.
Snahal, this is Ben. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Ben.
Okay, great. There was one other thing I realized might be of interest to people on the call or colleagues who might be folks that you have in mind. So within this project that I was just sharing with you all about the advanced technological education, there is an equity and inclusion summit that is being put on by the American Association of Community Colleges, through whom this ATE program is run. And the goal is to provide the opportunity for teams from MSI, so MSIs, minority serving institutions, who may not have engaged in ATE projects before, but are interested in exploring that possibility, to come and work with others who have been part of ATE projects to learn how the process works and the proposal writing process, and make linkages, and then be able to participate in the ATE conference. And it's being provided through the NSF. There's a competitive application process. But what I will do is, that's just been released, and I'll send that to Kathleen and Lisa to share with this larger network. But I wanted to plant the seed with folks that that is something to consider, and I think would be a great opportunity for colleagues in the IM-STEM states. So something to consider for this fall.
Great.
Awesome. Awesome.
Thanks, Ben. All right, you all. Thank you for giving us your time today, and have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank you, everyone.